This is level 5 from A Fresh Approach Daily Drills for the keyboard. In this level, we're going to learn a new scale. In the previous levels, we learned our C major scale, so you might just review that. All right, or using your scale patterns, but going back to those levels so that you can really have your C major scale down. And then level 4, we did our F major scale. Getting used to moving to that accidental with the arpeggio. Starting on the wrong hand, but you get the idea. Making sure that you really have those two scales down. Now we're going to learn a new scale, the B flat scale. So the B flat scale starts on our B flat. If you look at the key signature of this first line, you see that there are two flats in the key signature. Flats are always in the same order in every key signature. The first flat is always B. So if I have one flat in my key signature, I know my scale that has one flat, that would be the F major scale, so I'm in the key of F major. So now I'm adding a flat, so B flat is my first flat in the key signature. E flat will be my second flat. So we need to find the E flat. All right, so B and E, it's always in that order, so you can just learn that B and E, if I have two flats, they're always B first, E second. That will be my key signature for this level. So in that line of line number 1, I do not have flat signs on each one of the notes to remind you. You just have to check out the key signature. But we're going to learn this a little bit at a time. We're going to learn our B flat 5-note scale first in this very first line. So if I start on B flat, and I'm going to be down here below my middle C, so the B flat is that ledger line with the note below it. B flat, if I go up a whole step, remember whole half is my tetrachord, up a whole step, so B to B, B flat to B is a half step, so C. So there's my first two notes. All right, so we can practice our first measure a couple of times. All right, our second measure, D, and then it's an E, but we know from our key signature it's E flat. So my second measure I can practice. I can just do that a bunch of times. I can look away from the keyboard. I'm developing that motion of my hands moving back and forth between the naturals to the accidentals. All right, getting that really nice even motion as I'm moving back and forth. But also if I look away, I'm really developing that kinesthetic feeling, kinesthesia, my feeling of where those keys are without having to look directly at that. All right, so the first two measures is my first 4 notes of the 5-note scale. B flat, C, D, E flat. All right, I was looking directly at it and still missed it. All right, so that you need to learn the pattern of the accidental, 2 naturals, accidental. Then to complete the 5-note scale, I go up a whole step from E flat to F. So I'm going to have that E flat. So I kind of get used to that because I am skipping that E natural. All right. So the B flat 5-note scale, B flat, C, D, E flat, and then F. So that whole first line just works on 4 alternating strokes per note of the 5-note scale. I can look away. Hopefully even though I'm playing with these really big strokes and I'm looking directly at the camera up here, I have this sense of where those keys are, and I have played long enough to where I know that motion, right? Doesn't mean I'm not going to miss a note every once in a while, but I really can feel what that feels like. So practice that a bunch of times, all right? Now you'll notice that as you're playing with the snare drum part, the snare drum part has dynamics. It has forte, a diminuendo, piano, and a crescendo. You do not have to use the same dynamics. You can if you really like. Forte on the first measure, diminuendo in the second measure, soft on the third measure, and then crescendo. You can do that if you'd like, but for right now, I just want you to concentrate on that motion of your hands and playing with a nice piston stroke. Remember what we talked about right in the center of the accidentals. Do not play on the node where the string goes. All right, and then line number 2 is the other 5-note scale that we use to put together the B flat major scale, which is our F 5-note scale. And we learned this in the previous lesson, so this is no big deal, right? B flat, C, B flat. Okay, so as you're moving back and forth, it's about that motion. Remember, hopefully you have your F 5-note scale memorized, so we can put that together when we get to a later line. Line number 3 is our 5-note scale on B flat, first with quarter notes. If I start with my right hand, I have a crisscross that happens between my C, D, and E flat. So you might just practice those first 4 notes a few times with just your right and single sticking. So the right hand plays B flat, C, D, E flat. My left hand plays E flat back to F. So I can practice just the first 4 notes. See how I'm moving back and forth? Not really having to think about it too much. And then I can practice adding my 5th note, the F, which will be on my right hand. Now, as I move back down, I don't bring my left hand back and forth. I can just leave it there because I know the next stroke after my F is my E flat again. So as I move back and forth, I hit the F, my left hand is already above E flat, and then I move it back and forth, all right? So you might practice just the first 2 measures a few times just to get very used to that motion. Now you might see my twisting my body just a little bit. Okay, that's very natural. You're certainly not going to be able to reach like this back and forth. So twisting your body is cool. You're going to see this a lot, especially on other instruments when you're playing the timpani and everything else like that. You're going to be moving at the waist a lot. So practice the first 2 measures with quarter notes, and then once you have that down, you move to 8th notes. Getting used to that motion. Then, what I'm going to tell you next, what I'm going to tell you is to look away from the keyboard. Trust yourself. You're going to get better and better at it as you play longer and longer, right? So looking away from the keyboard, it actually gets easier the longer that you play, and especially with these motions of the naturals and accidentals, it gets easier to develop that kinesthetic sense. And that's going to be very important because as we're reading music and we're playing faster and faster musical passages, you're not going to be able to see everything like a lizard. All right? If we get to line number 4, it is our F 5-note scale, which we did in our previous lesson, so I don't really need to spend much time talking about this. Other than to reiterate that I have nice piston strokes. I'm striking right in the center of the bar. If I start with my right hand, my left hand will play that B flat. All right. Hopefully that's, if you practice at level 4 enough, that should be pretty simple. All right, moving on to line number 5. Now, 5-note scales. I'm going to put the first 5-note scale, the B flat 5-note scale. Then, instead of going back down, I'm going to start on F and play my F 5-note scale. And then I can think of that pattern of F, G, A, B flat, C, and I can go down. All right. Notice my left hand is playing up here, so when I finish my 5-note scale, I just leave my left hand there. All right. And then my 5-note scale from the B flat, I have to remember each note. All right. So just remember, in your key signature is B flat and E flat, so it will not play B and E. So taking that line slowly, rest, rest, rest. Will not play that E, but I was looking away. So mistakes are okay if you're looking away from the keyboard, because you really are developing that sense. I know I can play it if I'm looking right at it. All right, going on to line number 6. Now it's the full scale, but with double strokes. All right, remember how we can break this down. We can play it first as quarter notes with 1 stroke per note. All right, I'm going to start on my left hand. So, all right, so you might just practice those first 4 notes. Now instead of doing this, I'm doing this. Not that hard, but you might practice it first. And then once I get to there, I keep going on my F 5-note scale up to the B flat. So practice it slowly, breaking down just the first 3 notes. Getting that pattern, you're feeling that motion, then add your 4th note, or back down. That was part of that, what we worked on already, and then we can finish it off adding the double strokes in. So see my nice double strokes, see my nice piston strokes, see how I'm playing right in the center of the bar. All of those wonderful things that we're learning through each one of those levels, and we're reinforcing it on each level that we're doing. All right, so I don't have to really cover it, but listen to the sound of your double strokes to make sure they're even between the hands. Line number 7, now I'm learning my arpeggio. All right, my arpeggio, remember, is a chord that's broken up. So I don't play all the notes of a chord together like you would do on a piano. My arpeggio is the broken chord. So remember, 1, skip 2, 3, skip 4, 5. So if I'm thinking of my B flat scale, 1, skip 2, which is C, 3 is D, skip 4, which is E flat, 5 is F. So that's my arpeggio. B flat, D, F. B flat, D, F, and then I play my top B flat, which is 1 again, but it's up there. So 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, or 5, 3, 1. All right, so as we're playing line number 7, that's all I'm doing is just moving up and down my arpeggio, but playing 8th note alternating strokes. left hand. Now, as you speed up or you're getting a little bit faster, that motion is just like windshield wipers, all right? It doesn't stop in between every single note, which would cause you to get really tense. Okay, I'm trying to really relax those back fingers, and that motion of the mallet moving back and forth is nice and relaxed. I'm trying to keep my hands relaxed as I'm playing that. Line number 8 is our arpeggio. All right, so as we're doing the first two measures, it's our broken arpeggio, where we're playing a quarter note on the B flats, but quarter note, D, left hand moves up to the F, right hand moves up to the B flat. So there's a little bit of a motion that you're getting used to. So you might just practice that a few times. So it's that target practice, which is really cool, especially as you're moving to play timpani or the tenors in the marching band. Target practice becomes very important. So practicing those first couple of measures, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note. Try to hit all the notes, and then your arpeggio without the quarter note, back and forth, quarter note. So you really have that quarter note that just for the repeat. All right. So we've done that before on F. We did it on C. Now B flat. See how when you play it faster, you can kind of hear the chord. All right, so the arpeggio is just our broken chord. Line number 9 is our scale and arpeggio. All right, so you should have to have practiced your scale. All right, with all the right notes and back and forth, your motion should be nice and even, and then you add your arpeggio after that. Line number 9 has the arpeggio twice. Scale, up and down, arpeggio twice. Line number 10 uses our rhythm pattern of quarter notes at the bottom and top for our scale. If you start on your left hand, you can alternate all the way through, and then we have that motion that we've already developed, and then our arpeggio with our quarter notes on our B flat, quarter note, and then just remember that I end with 1 and 2 and 3. All right, or you can play your arpeggio twice. But then you don't have a downbeat at the end. Or you can play the downbeat, doesn't matter. All right, so we have 3 scales. You should be completely memorized on those 3 scales. Working on these daily drills should drill it into your head what the patterns are for those scales. C, no accidentals. F, 1 accidental, which is the B flat. And then B flat, which is 2 accidentals, B and E. Spells the word B. So your B flat scale has B and E in the key signature. All right, so practice on that again with snare drum first, and then keyboard every single day. If you do that for about 5 days, you should be well on your way to developing into a great technical player, both on snare drum and keyboard. But you definitely need to do your drills to make sure that you're developing the skills to do it correctly. All right, if you can do that, I'll see you in level 6.